This country tonight, this shouldn't be about conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican. Where do we as a country go from here? How do we prevent this unprecedented attack on a duly elected president and an effort to then overturn the will of the American people from ever happening again? People with the highest levels of power abusing that power to exonerate one candidate that we know should have been indicted, to favor that candidate, to rig a presidential election, and then undo the results that they didn't like. After all, we, the American people, we were lied to over and over and over again. My promise to this country from this night forward is we will hold every liar, every propagandist, every conspiracy theorist accountable. This will likely take us months and maybe longer to unravel the truth. We've got all the tape. We've got all the comments. It will take time, but I make you this pledge tonight. Every deep state actor that abused the power that we, the people, give them will be held accountable. We will hold every super patriot, Comey, who thought they knew better than the American people accountable. We will hold every fake news media liar, conspiracy theorist accountable. We will hold every liar, the cowardly shift to begin with in Congress, accountable. We will name names. We will demand new investigations. We will get this right. We will demand that we get this right. And we will show you who can never be trusted again. And tonight we start with this corrupt media mob in the Democratic Party. We now know they work in unison. They are one entity. And for the past 2 years, there have been two parallel narratives in this country. One, of course, was the truth, which we have been proving night after night and reporting on night after night. And tomorrow, all the people that deserve the credit will be here with me about the biggest abuse of power, corruption scandal, perhaps in history. And then there was the media's pack of lies about a grand scheme where Donald Trump and his team worked closely with Russia to steal the election. It literally breathless reporting, hysteria, pushed week after week, every second, every hour of every day. Look at some headlines. Fox were commonplace across nearly every media outlet. There's actually lots of evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. Wrong. The Atlantic, the collusion with Russia is in plain sight. Wrong. Huffington Post ran this lie on their front page. Manafort indictment reveals Trump-Russia collusion. A lie. We're talking about thousands upon thousands of reports in the opinion and so-called hard news pages alike. That means the Washington Post, the New York Times. Believe it or not, they actually won Pulitzer Prizes for their lying coverage of the Russia collusion hoax. That is a disgusting disgrace and a dishonor to every person that deserved a real Pulitzer Prize. This horrible conspiratorial coverage was amplified every single day on fake news, CNN, conspiracy TV, MSNBC. This is but just a tiny sampling. Take a look.
I think this meeting and the revelations about it are a game changer in the investigation because they present the first evidence of actual collusion.
What Mr. Trump did yesterday was to betray the women and men of the FBI, the CIA, NSA, and others, and to betray the American public. And that's why I use the term that this is nothing short of treasonous.
This is direct collusion. Collusion's been established. It's out in the open, right? We know this all took place. And the whole notion of there being no collusion, this is the biggest diversion of the Trump crowd. There was collusion.
So this picture that the president is so desperate to avoid, this picture of collusion, begins to fill in.
You know, that's interesting here is it's both, on one hand, very damning, because it's collusion. You see it there, and it's collusion.
It would seem that collusion is obvious. A criminal conspiracy is unknown.
There's collusion in plain sight. There were the back and forth between various individuals who were affiliated with the Trump campaign and Russian individuals. That collusion, I think, is quite obvious and apparent.
A political hurricane is out there at sea for him. We'll call it Hurricane Vladimir, if you will, the whole Russian thing.
This is evidence of willingness to commit collusion.
This is all a lie. And at the height of this hysteria, especially fake news CNN and conspiracy TV MSNBC, of course they were featuring every second of every day former Stormy Daniels attorney Michael Avenatti more than 108 times in 2 months because he hated Donald Trump. And Avenatti was speculating wildly and spreading these baseless rumors, and they ate it up about Trump and Russia on a daily, nightly basis. Well, today, Avenatti was indicted in 2 federal separate cases surrounding fraud and extortion. Yet for weeks, Hannity was their star guest on cable TV, on show after show after show, and the media was desperate for the false narrative and lie to be advanced. You know, Britt Hume, 50 years in journalism, called this Russia collusion coverage the worst journalistic debacle of his lifetime. Over 50 years in journalism. I thought I had a lot of 30. You know, even far-left former Rolling Stones writer, Matt Taibbi, I think is his name, wrote, quote, "Nobody wants to hear this, but news that Special Prosecutor Mueller is headed home without issuing new charges is a death blow for the reputation of the American news media." Jeff Zucker, head of CNN, are you going to apologize for your network's constant stream of lies and hysteria? Phil Griffin, NBC, are you going to apologize for the conspiracy theories you allowed to be spread every second of every day on NBC? What about Jeff Bezos, Marty Barron? You going to come clean over the front page deception every day in the Washington Post? Will you at least stop referring to far-left collusion-obsessed hack Jennifer Rubin and others as conservatives? They're not. Is the New York Times executive editor Dean Backwet, is he going to give back the paper's Pulitzer Prize for collusion reporting, given they were caught now reporting a hoax? They all lied to we, the people, day after day for 2+ years. In reality, we know there will never be a mea culpa from any of these major fake news outlets. They'll just move on to the next group of lies. They'll never apologize. They'll never retract. Their lies, their anonymous sourcing, their endless speculation. They are hopeless. Journalism, I told you in 2007, it's dead, it's buried, and it's not something that I said lightly. They have earned their horrible reputations. Never vetted Obama. They rushed to judgment going back to Richard Jewell. Look what they did to a 16-year-old kid and other 16-year-olds from Covington, Nicholas Sandman and the Covington kids. Look at what they did in the Smollett case. Look what they did to the Cambridge police, Darren Wilson, Michael Brown and Ferguson, Freddie Gray. They rushed to judgment in Baltimore. The fake rape allegations at UVA, the fake rape allegations against the Duke lacrosse team. The rule of law be damned, due process be damned, equal justice be damned under the law, equal application of our laws be damned, the Constitution of the United States, to all of them be damned. The media mob, the Democratic Party mob, they have caused great harm and division in this country. They laughed at the idea that Donald Trump could win. They begged him to run. By the way, on all those cases we mentioned, we didn't rush to judgment. Justice Kavanaugh, another case. We allowed due process. We allowed the presumption of innocence. They never allowed it in any of those cases, and they've never been held accountable, but it's never been this big. Now that he's president, they have never taken the time to ever cover Donald Trump's accomplishments, which have been record-breaking. They hate him. They hate all of we, the people that dared to vote for him. They thought they knew better. We, the irredeemable deplorables, that we believe in God, our Bibles, our religion. We're the smelly Walmart shoppers. This hatred is now, this rage has caused the mainstream media to be wrong over and over and over and over and over again. NPR embarrassed after it lied about Don Jr.'s Senate testimony. Oh, we pay for their coverage. McClatchy blatantly wrong about Michael Cohen's trip to Prague. It never happened. The Guardian reporting a fake conspiracy about Mueller and Julian Assange. 3 CNN employees forced to resign after reporting an untrue Russia story related about Anthony Scaramucci, our friend. Fake news story after fake news story, lie after lie, propaganda after propaganda. If it had to do with Russia, President Trump, well, the story was hastily reported, and facts were nothing more than an afterthought. Look at more of the video evidence.
A sort of dossier of alleged dirt that the Russians allegedly say they allegedly have on Donald Trump. Alleged dirt that they allegedly used to allegedly cultivate him is basically a Russian asset. You get the person's phone records. Here they see these calls to the blocked number, and now there seems to be good evidence that that was probably President Trump.
Michael Cohen claims that then-candidate Donald Trump knew in advance about the June 2016 meeting in Trump Tower. Crucially, These sources tell us that Cohen is willing to make that assertion to the special counsel, Robert Mueller.
We begin with a new report that Paul Manafort, the president's former campaign chairman, paid secret visits, multiple ones, to Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. This is according to The Guardian.
President Trump directed his attorney to lie to Congress.
Why no due process? Why no presumption of innocence? Why no due diligence even on a 16-year-old kid? Blatant false reporting, rushing to judgment again and again. The answer's simple. This corrupt, partisan media mob is an integral part of the new radical extreme Democratic Socialist Party. They clearly work together. They develop, they push the same narrative using the same words, whether it is true or not. Outlets like fake news CNN, conspiracy TV, NBC, they have become nothing more than the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. That's why when they try to kill us here at Fox and you support us, you are allowing the only voice of reason on the air half the time. That's why Democrats, the media, sounded exactly alike. Remember their comments about collusion? Gee, they sound like one another. It's like they're one mind, one heart, one body, one soul. Take a look.
You know, my Republican colleagues, the president himself, the White House has been saying there's no evidence of collusion, none at all. We need people to say that there's no evidence of collusion, no collusion whatsoever. Well, it turns out that there was collusion.
In our investigation, we saw strong evidence of collusion. The Republicans now are choosing to bury it.
Over the course of the last year, we have seen, I think, a mountain of evidence of collusion between the campaign and the Russians.
The evidence is pretty clear that there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. And
you think there's evidence pretty clear?
The evidence is there.
It seems quite clear. The president keeps saying no collusion, but there obviously was collusion. And the question is how high that collusion went and whether the president was part of a criminal conspiracy. There was clearly a criminal conspiracy to defraud the American people of an honest election.
This looks like an explosive indictment because the facts they set forth look like collusion.
We saw cold, hard evidence of the Trump campaign, indeed the Trump family, eagerly intending to collude possibly with Russia.
All lies. In the end, we now know the truth. Trump, Russia, collusion, the conspiracy theory was nothing more than a coping mechanism by people that couldn't handle losing, desperately hoping the 2016 election results were not what they were. Some evil force was behind the scenes, behind the curtain, pulling the strings. Russia, Russia, Russia. Never before as a country have we witnessed such sore loserism ever like this. So many lies, so much hysteria and breathless reporting. And Democratic House Intel Committee Chairman Schiff, I call him the cowardly Schiff, lied repeatedly when he said there's significant evidence of collusion. He is not to be trusted, should be taken off as the chairman of the House Intel Committee. He's a national disgrace, as is Congresswoman Waters lying to you when she vowed to impeach Trump over collusion. You can never trust people that lie like this. Or Congressman Eric Swalwell, who said he's seen plenty of evidence of collusion. He is a liar. He's never to be trusted. Or Senator Hirono exclaiming that we are headed towards a constitutional crisis. More total BS. And the list goes on. And the hysteria and the left was widespread. In fact, if not for talk radio, thank God for Rush, Mark, my colleagues here, many of them at the Fox News Channel, like Tucker, Laura, Lou Dobbs on our sister station, Fox and Friends, a few other brave, logical, independent thinkers standing alone. There would have been no one out there advocating for the truth, discovering the biggest abuse of power scandal in our history. Nobody. We now have to concern ourselves as a country with a two-tiered system of justice featuring high-ranking, deep state, powerful officials. We empower them that tried to first rig an election in favor of Hillary Clinton by exonerating her from what should have been obvious obstruction and a violation of the Espionage Act. Then they used their power to try and influence the 2016 election with Russian lies that Hillary paid for, of all ironies. That's why our Hannity watch on the deep state is more important than ever. I am tonight wearing an FBI flag pin given to me by a rank and file FBI individual. Can't name him, he'll get in trouble. But like so many people I know in the FBI, thanking me for distinguishing between the 99% of brave, dedicated agents of the premier law enforcement agency of the world that do a tremendous job, that are embarrassed by what their leadership has done. And they serve our country every day. Don't put them in the same alignment, if you will, with the Comeys, the McCabe, Strzok, and Pages of the world. And this is now time that we get the justice that we deserve. This is now time for those that abuse the power that you gave them. Their day of reckoning must now come, or else this will happen.